become by becoming rich.
Take all your money, buy Bitcoin.
I say when we
You can
sell.
wake up every morning and say GM.
GM. Today is Tuesday. It's the 1st of October. Welcome to Q4. Welcome to the new month. We survived the shitty summer months. We saw some recovery in the September period. And now we are going where? Moon? Maybe. If you haven't already seen, oh, by the way, if you use the BTC index chart, it glitches often at the start of weeks and months. So don't use that one when you're looking at the monthly candles as they're turning over. Which this all-time history index. This one here works fine. The other one. So we're green so far in the month. Slight down move at the beginning of the month, although I don't even know is that correct. We barely moved. Yeah, there was a tiny little move. If you zoom all the way in, you can see here. Yeah, we hit a wick down, couldn't even take out the lows, price moving up. So the usual assumption and the easy thing to say here is, well, it's too early. First thing in the month, you don't want to get long. Market's not just going to go up without any pullbacks, is it? Well, we do have a down wick, however small it is. So we've had months like this before, especially December last year, and even November, and then obviously January of 2023, which had no down wick at all. And in a bullish last October, right? Look at last October's candle. You know, don't be overly surprised if we don't see any significant pullback. But at the same time, would I be using that as a basis to trade right now? No. So even though the monthly low may already be in, which sounds crazy, but crazier things have happened, I wouldn't bet on it. I would still wait for the trend to reclaim. So back over here, what was I looking at yesterday? Yeah. This is where we were looking at for a potential trend shift yesterday. Price stayed lower. Kept pushing, 3 pushes, took out plenty of longs, touched down into that other previous support. That support seems to be holding pretty strong as well. Liquidations have significantly reduced throughout the day. Selling as well, even into that last push, there was more spot selling actually than futures, but it really had died down. And you've seen off the open today so far, this is the spot delta, and you can see a positive push where futures are sort of more neutral. Little spike there, but mostly neutral. You're seeing this strong wave of spot buying, market buying at the beginning of the month. Why is that? Well, same reason as why the yearly candle opens with a pump, and quite often quarterly candles, if it's an expectation of a bullish quarter, can open with a pump as well, because it's the earliest point at which you can get long, right? So if you go back to the start of the year, if you thought 2023 was going to be bullish, then what better time to buy than the 1st of January? Because if 2023 closes green, obviously you buy on the 1st of January, you're going to be in profit. Same as 2024. We hit January over here, and January started off with a pump, and then of course we had a bit of consolidation in January, and then we went higher. Again, why? Halving year, people always bet on the halving year to be bullish generally. So you do see those flows come in right away. I would expect something similar to this initial move, not necessarily this, not looking at like the 20 days of January, this here. We pump January 1st, January 2nd, drop back, take out some stops, and then continue, or just consolidate. Wouldn't be surprised to see that. I would guess that some of these levels will get hit, although, this can be a trickier time to navigate because it's easy to look at all this and say, well, there's stops building up and these lows must get swept. But also, this is the last, it's dipped right back down. This is really right at the point where Bitcoin can actually hold its market structure. Right, so going any lower than that might indicate some signs of weakness. Really, I would be looking at more of a, I'd say sideways, choppy. We probably fill back up towards 65, and that might be the first opportunity for a trade this month. If the price moves up into the bands and is unable to flip them, there you go, so there was a shown. If price moves up into these bands and is unable to flip them, we might see some consolidation with a little push lower, take out all that, and then the rally for October begins proper. That's something I'm watching. But watching it without an expectation of it happening. That's probably the best way of saying it. This could just be another one of these areas here where you do get that initial weakness in the 1 hour trend where price loses it. You do get some crossover on the bands, but then it has a fast reclaim. If that were to be the case, you'd want to see something similar to this here, where we have a strong move up and then a pullback and then continuation. I don't think it will repeat. These sort of patterns do not repeat themselves generally within days of each other. But I would say that reclaiming 65 is your real bullish sign. And because the bands are all kind of coalescing around there, I think that is where you want to see how price reacts. So anything like that is immediately bullish, green. If it sort of struggles around the bands around 65 and continues to consolidate here, you're likely seeing some position building, going for those stops, take the stops out. And of course, could go lower at that point, but if it reclaims, that's when you're looking at it really going higher. You want to be aware of this false breakout. Right? This 65k pushed above, trapped some longs, flushed them down. So any of the chop happening around in here does not become continuation until we see reclaim of 65. And, overall, market's looking good. Altcoins, I think alts have sort of started the month with a bit of a pump as well. If you're looking at total 2, and then total 3 is up most. So people seem to be betting again on alts for the October rally. I mean, if you look at the total 3 itself, it's still in a bearish trend until these cross. It has broken market structure to the upside and is trying to reclaim that, which is good. But it's not like we're in the expanding trend stage yet. Of course, that can all happen at once, and we may see that. You may also see more chop. So you can either see chop or continuation higher. And if we see October having a strong beginning with no pullbacks and structures break to the upside, you're probably just expecting it to continue. I lean more towards a pump initially, then a flush, then a reclaim. Like I said on monthly preview yesterday. Check out monthly preview, where I talked about my expectations for October. I think October will close green. I also think that everybody thinks October will close green. So the way in which it does that might be more difficult to trade or less expected than what people think. Structure's holding here, hasn't broken the previous daily low. I would expect probably some sideways chop. If it starts to break down below there, you probably see a bit more, a few days, I would guess, or a couple of weeks of some very, very choppy conditions. That's all that really I see, because when everyone's trying to get on the same train, which is essentially long for October, I mean, that's like the consensus trade, you should be on the lookout for more difficult conditions, I would say, in the near term. And what else? We've had, obviously we're at the start of the week as well. So if you zoom this in yesterday, for our weekly candle, we basically have a flat weekly candle. There's the weekly open, and that has been untouched. So from Monday, we dump straight down. So you look at the weekly, it's just having a straight up pullback. That doesn't mean it's going to go back up there right away. It is a pretty decent sign as long as price can hold here. Not always, right? Pump through there. Immediately on the following week, we just dumped straight off the open. Had a bearish engulfing week. That's something to watch for this week as well. It wouldn't take much for this candle to fully engulf last week's candle, which would probably lead to more continuation to the downside and more chop. I would say if this weekly candle closes below last week's, you are likely to see some kind of deeper flush to some extent. I don't know where to exactly. First place you'd be watching is there, because that is the weekly gap. There's a small gap on the weekly chart here where it broke above. That's one to keep an eye on for sure. that aligns with that kind of 60.5, which is probably one of the better areas that you could see for a weekly impulse gap fill. When you zoom that in, you'll see this here. That's basically where we broke out on after the Powell speech, and as yet is untested. That's one to watch. But really, overall, I think decent start to the month. Bitcoin is not trending here. It's range bound. It can continue to chop range bound. I think it will chop range bound but close October green. So maybe you see some down or some sideways chop and we end up rallying into the end of the month. And be mindful of these kind of pullbacks as well. I'll show you here, like, we've had the first leg down, right? Even though it's into support, and that's fine. And if Bitcoin reclaims those highs, then great, away we go. Also, if it's going to be one of these kind of push down, sideways chop, push down, sideways chop, push down, that would take out people, because people are going to bet on the long here, bet on the long there, bet on the long there, right? And then eventually it'll reclaim and go. So a couple of different ways this can play out. I'd be watching, first of all, this should hold, right? 4 hour back into the 100 EMA. Looks good if it reclaims the 50. If we get above 65, no reason why it can't just continue immediately. If not, you're looking at 62.5 where all these stops are building to get swept. And if that doesn't hold, if the sweep doesn't hold, then you're looking at back down to probably that breakout area from the Powell speech. As for alts, individual alts that I've got my eye on, Pepe. Big pump off the monthly open. Pepe setting up fine. I think still the best trade for Pepe is waiting for some of the EMAs to get hit on the 4 hour, which might take a little bit more time. It's came back down. It couldn't hold the 50, held the 100, but then swept it. It's rallying up. I would say probably that's enough for Pepe to make a new high. Usually when you get these trend resets into some of the bands that hold, that would be enough for it to go for a new high. Whether it has extension beyond that is anyone's guess. This sort of pullback has left a gap below, which I would say I would more like to see that flush down and then it go from there. You know, positions build, sweep them out, away it goes. I think patience will be rewarded on a lot of these. We have seen some decent trend continuation type of setups, but such as this here where Pepe had set this impulse candle, swept it out, reclaimed, and as long as that holds, you know, lower time frame, okay, not looking too bad. I'll lay out some of that on trade of the day. And today at 4, we have the Ask Michael stream. See you all then, GM. And that is about it. There's not a whole lot happening elsewhere. Dollar starting to rally a little bit, something to take note of. S&P sideways, NASDAQ sort of sideways, gold kind of just sideways and after a run up or having a slight pullback. So really not a huge amount to draw into all this. And that is it. Why is total 2 there? Shouldn't be in there. All right, GM.